Hey guys, what's up? My name is Zach, and today we're going to be analyzing the Arizona 2018 Senate race. So let's start out by looking at the individual primaries. As we can see, the Republican primary is very crowded, with Martha McSally having the lead with 33%, Kelly Ward, a state senator, with 25%, and Joe Arpaio, the sheriff of Maricopa County, who was pardoned by Donald Trump, with a minority of 19%. So McSally seems to be the most likely candidate, although it's kind of up in the air for the Republican Party in Arizona. But McSally was a representative from a district, I believe, in southern Arizona. She has the highest approval, as you can see here, and she's most likely going to be the candidate, but we'll discuss the other candidates for argument's sake, because they are going to play a role regardless of who is nominated, even if they are not nominated. But as we can see with Kyrsten Sinema, I don't know whether it's Kyrsten Sinema or Kyrsten Sinema, but regardless, she's another representative from the state. She's bisexual. She's not a progressive. I believe she's more of a centrist Democrat, and we can see by the polls that she's leading consistently against Martha McSally by 7 points, against Kelly Ward with over 10 points, and against Joe Arpaio with 21 points. So we can see that, at least by polling, Kyrsten Sinema has a definitive advantage, but we're not just going to be looking at polling. Let's pull up here. As we can see by the fundraising, Kyrsten Sinema, not Kyrsten Sinema, my apologies, has raised more money and has more cash on hand than any of the other candidates, so that's a definitive advantage in her column. And as we can see here, so one thing that's worth mentioning is that Jeff Flake, the incumbent in this seat, is not running again, so the Republican Party has completely lost their incumbent advantage. And even when he was the incumbent in 2012, when the state was a lot less Democratic, he won by a narrow margin of 3% against Richard Carmona. So that's something worth taking into account. Even then, when this state was less Democratic in 2012 than it is now, when there was an incumbent running, he still won narrowly. And now there's no incumbent. The state is much more leaning towards the Democrats than it was in 2012. So that's something that you have to take into consideration when you're considering this. Then the third most obvious thing you have to take into consideration when calling the Arizona Senate seat is Trump. I mean, Trump's net approval in Arizona is at 0, so the candidates have to be very careful about how they talk about Trump, how favorable they are to Trump, how not favorable they are to Trump. And let's just look at Kelly Ward and McSally. We'll talk about Joe Arpaio in a second. He's a whole different case to talk about. But as we can see, based on Tucson.com, in an interview with Martha McSally, she expressed that she wasn't favorable of Trump, but that she's willing to work with him, which is, I think, is on her part a very smart play to make. I think that most Arizona Republicans would agree with that. And she's been kind of down the middle. I just have a policy of never endorsing for anything, not a dog catcher or a mayor or a president. She's not openly endorsing Donald Trump, which is a smart move to make, as I said, being constructive with him, etc., etc. Then we have Kelly Ward, and I believe down here she covers Donald Trump. She supported Donald Trump's pardon of Joe Arpaio, which does indicate that she has a slightly more higher approval of Donald Trump than McSally does, which I don't think will work very well for her. I think that if you're going to be running in this seat as a Republican, you have to be down the middle. You can't be too friendly with Donald Trump, because there's a lot of anti-Trump voters in this state, at least currently, and probably leading up into the 2018 election on both the Democratic side and the Republican side. So it's a very big factor to consider in this race. And then the next thing to consider is Joe Arpaio. So Joe Arpaio, as most of you know, he was convicted of, I believe, voter IDing or something along those lines of Hispanic people in his precinct or wherever he was the sheriff for, and he was found that was found to be illegal under the court, and he was going to serve prison time, I think. But then Donald Trump came in and pardoned him, gave him a presidential pardon, and that kind of made his name much more well-known throughout the United States, and now he's running a Senate campaign. And most people would agree that he would not be the candidate in the Senate race. Most people would agree that he's too friendly towards Trump, that he's too controversial, which he is. He's not going to win. He's not going to win the primary, as we can already see. He's a very distant third from Kelly Ward and McSally, and especially compared to Kyrsten Sinema winning by 20, having 21 points above him. It's not a good race for Joe Arpaio. However, there is speculation that Joe Arpaio will run a third-party campaign in this state, and if he does, that will mean that the Republicans are automatically going to lose. If Joe Arpaio wins, he will... I said this before when talking about the West Virginia Senate race. In a state that is this close, if there's a third-party candidate that is more Republican than is Democrat, the Republicans lose. Same goes with the Democrats. Same goes in any case when there's a third-party vote splitting. That was a factor in 2016, for a big factor in many of the states, and the main reason why some of the states were so close, especially with Gary Johnson on the ticket of the Libertarian Party. But as we can see here, there's a very big third-party, a three-person race for the Republican nomination, which already makes it gives the Republicans a disadvantage in this state. And as we can see for Kyrsten Sinema, she has virtually no competition. I believe there's only one other candidate, and she's polling at, I believe, under 10%. And Kyrsten Sinema has that nomination locked up in her column. She's going in with good approval against all of the candidates, even with Martha McSally. And I do believe that Kyrsten Sinema is likely to win this race, at least currently. And I think the main reason, well, there's multiple main reasons, but I mean, looking at this race, even if Jeff Flake was still running in this race, he might not win. That's how friendly this state has become to Democrats. It's just looking at this margin, looking at the fact that this margin is definitely going to slim, even if Jeff Flake was the candidate, which he isn't. So with all those factors in consideration, with Joe Arpaio, with Trump's approval in this state, with just the 2012 Senate race, which I think speaks volumes, I would call this state leaning a very strong lean in Kyrsten Sinema's column. I think that come 2018, this state will go to Kyrsten Sinema. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. I know this was kind of a short video, but I think I organized my thoughts pretty well. And I want to do more of these videos. I want to analyze more of these Senate races, because there is a lot that I want to analyze. So thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video. Bye.